Hollywood has always sold reinvention like a fairy tale. But this time, it feels different. Quieter, heavier, more cautious. Behind the spotless premieres and rehearsed smiles are people making choices that could cost everything. These aren't tabloid spectacles. They're stories of private courage, where truth mattered more than comfort. Tonight, we revisit 8 figures who challenged expectations and reshaped what visibility can mean without noise, just resolve. What does it really take to be seen? Chaz Bono grew up in public long before he had words for himself. As the child of Sonny Bono and Cher, he lived inside headlines and other people's expectations. From early on, he felt a gap between how the world saw him and how he saw himself. It wasn't something fame could fix. For years, Bono kept that conflict private. As an adult, he did the work to understand it. He went through therapy, asked hard questions, and stopped pretending the discomfort would fade. In his late 30s, he began transitioning. He started hormone therapy and later had surgery. The steps were personal, but the attention was public. His transition also became a family story. Cher struggled at first. She had to unlearn what she thought she knew. Over time, she moved toward acceptance. For Bono, the change brought calm and a sense of coherence he hadn't had before. Work did not end after transition. He stayed visible. He appeared in film and television and wrote about his experience. He also used his platform to talk about mental health, self-acceptance, and the need to let people define themselves on their own timeline. He spoke directly about how public scrutiny can intensify stress and why strong support systems matter during any major life change. Bono's story challenges a common myth. Transformation belongs only to the young. It doesn't. You can choose truth later and still build a full life around it. Elliot Page found success early, but success didn't solve the private struggle underneath it. Acting gave him purpose, yet the roles, press tours, and constant attention on his body made a deeper discomfort harder to ignore. The more famous he became, the more he felt split between public image and inner reality. In 2014, Page came out as gay. That step brought relief, but it wasn't the full answer. The discomfort remained and affected his mental health. He kept working, but the cost added up. He later described how living out of alignment can feel like constant pressure, quiet, but exhausting. In December 2020, Page came out as transgender and shared his name and pronouns publicly. The message was simple and direct. It wasn't framed as drama. It was a statement of truth. The response was global. And it mattered because it showed a trans man speaking for himself in mainstream entertainment. After coming out, Page didn't disappear. He continued acting and producing, and he spoke openly about dysphoria, anxiety, and the importance of gender-affirming care. He also made clear that visibility comes with risk, especially when people turn trans lives into political debate. Still, he chose to stay present and keep working on his own terms. Page's story offers a practical point. You can build a career and still need to rebuild your relationship with yourself. And when you finally do, you don't owe anyone a performance. You owe yourself honesty and a life that fits. Hunter Schafer didn't come from Hollywood. She built her voice long before fame. Growing up in North Carolina, she felt early that the roles people expected from her didn't fit. Instead of forcing it, she put her energy into art. Drawing, fashion, and storytelling gave her a way to be honest when words were harder. As a teenager, she began her transition while still in school. That meant dealing with daily pressure up close classrooms, peers, and rules that weren't made for her. It also taught her something important early. She needed control over her own life to feel safe. Her breakout role came with Euphoria, where she played Jules Vaughn. Schafer brought Jules to the screen with a calm intensity. The character felt vulnerable and bold at the same time, and the performance helped many viewers see a trans teen as a full person, not a lesson or a headline. Schafer has also been clear that she is not Jules. Still, she used her experience to make the role truthful. She didn't stop at acting. Schafer moved into high fashion on her own terms. She worked with major designers and brands without toning herself down or treating her identity like a marketing angle. In recent years, she has taken more creative control, co-writing, developing original work, and speaking publicly about trans rights and the need for real agency in storytelling. Her influence comes from consistency. She shows that visibility matters most when the person being seen still gets to decide the terms. Carmen Carrera first became known to many viewers on RuPaul's Drag Race. She stood out right away, confident, polished, and hard to ignore. At that point, the show framed her mainly as a drag performer, but after the cameras stopped, she faced a more personal truth that had nothing to do with a stage persona. Carrera later came out as a transgender woman and began her transition. That choice was not simple in an industry that often treats gender as a gimmick. Many people also blurred the line between drag and identity. Some assumed her drag image defined her real life. Carrera pushed back. She made it clear. Drag is performance. Her gender is who she is. She also refused to stay quiet when people used outdated language or reduced trans women to stereotypes. She corrected interviews. She challenged headlines. She asked to be seen and addressed as a woman. Full stop. That insistence cost her comfort, but it protected her dignity. Over time, her visibility opened real doors. Carrera built a modeling career that reached beyond niche spaces. She worked runway and editorial, and she became one of the first openly transgender models signed by a major agency. She also moved into TV and film, expanding how people could picture trans women on screen. What makes her story practical is her approach. She didn't wait for permission. She set boundaries, demanded accuracy, and kept working. She proved you can take control of your narrative, even when the public thinks it already owns it. Andreja Pejić built her early career by breaking fashion's rules without making speeches. She had an androgynous look that worked in both menswear and womenswear. Designers booked her because she could shift the whole mood of a show. At a time when the industry loved strict categories, she proved those categories were optional. Her life before fashion shaped that strength. She was born in Bosnia and later moved to Australia after her family fled war. That kind of displacement forces you to adapt fast. It also makes you protective of who you are. Even while her career grew, Pejić carried a truth she had known since childhood. In 2014, she came out publicly as a transgender woman and later shared that she had gender-affirming surgery. Many people expected backlash or fewer jobs. Instead, she kept working. She appeared in major editorials and campaigns, and she continued to walk for top brands. She also stepped into interviews with more control. She didn't let the media turn her body into a debate. Page speaks plainly about autonomy. She points out how often trans people get asked to explain themselves just to be treated with basic respect. She pushes back on that. She shows up, does the work, and lets the results speak. Her impact goes beyond modeling. She made it easier for the industry to imagine beauty without one fixed template. She also showed a practical lesson. Set your boundaries early, protect your story, and don't negotiate your identity to keep a job. James Dean became a star fast, then disappeared even faster. He made only a few major films, but he defined a type of young man Hollywood had not shown so clearly before. On screen, he played anger, doubt, and loneliness without trying to look strong all the time. That honesty made him a symbol for restless youth in the 1950s. Off-screen, Dean avoided neat labels. Studios at the time controlled images and punished anything that felt different. Dean didn't follow that rule. He dated women, including actress Pierre Angeli. At the same time, friends and people close to him later described a private life that did not fit one simple category. What stands out is not gossip. It's his attitude. When asked directly about his sexuality, he pushed back. He reportedly said he didn't want to live with one hand tied behind his back. He treated freedom as the point, not the label. That mindset carried real risk in his era. A rumor could end a career overnight. Dean never lived long enough to speak for himself in a long interview cycle or write his own story. He died in 1955 at age 24, before the public could watch him grow into his own voice. Today, people read his legacy differently. Instead of hunting for a single answer, many see him as proof that identity can be complex and that refusing limits can be its own kind of courage. Barbara Stanwyck didn't play the kind of woman Hollywood expected in its golden age. She carried authority on screen. She made tough characters believable without turning them into villains or victims. In an era that rewarded softness and compliance, she chose control. That alone was a statement. Off-screen, Stanwyck protected her private life with real discipline. Studios managed reputations like products. Anything outside the norm could end careers or limit roles. So she kept her personal world quiet, even as public curiosity grew. The silence wasn't empty. It was strategy. In 1962, she took a risk on screen by playing a lesbian character in Walk on the Wild Side. At the time, queer characters were rarely shown, and almost never with nuance. Stanwyck approached the role with restraint, not sensationalism. She made it human, which made it harder to dismiss. Historians and biographers have long discussed her close, lifelong relationship with her companion and publicist, Helen Ferguson. Stanwyck never confirmed or denied anything. She didn't offer explanations. She also married twice, but many believe those marriages fit the pressures of the studio system more than her private truth. We can't know every detail, and guessing isn't the point. What matters is what her life shows. Privacy can be protection, and silence can be a form of agency. Stanwyck navigated an unforgiving system, kept her dignity intact, and left behind a model of strength that still feels modern. Geena Rocero knew who she was early. At 5 years old, she told her mother she was a girl. That moment mattered because her home didn't treat it as a problem. Growing up in the Philippines, she had a base of support that helped her move forward with less fear and more clarity. As a teenager, Rocero medically transitioned. Later, she moved to the United States and built a strong modeling career. She booked major work and lived her day-to-day life as the woman she had always understood herself to be. But she kept her trans history private. That wasn't shame. It was risk management. At the time, the fashion world offered visibility, but not safety. People could take your story and use it against you. In 2014, Rocero chose a different path. She stood on the TED stage and shared her truth in public. She didn't do it for shock value. She did it to take control of the narrative before someone else did. The talk became a turning point. It showed audiences a trans woman speaking for herself, with calm confidence and zero apology. After that, she expanded her work beyond modeling. She started building projects focused on trans visibility in media, better representation, and real policy change. She uses storytelling as a tool, not a performance. Her story offers a clear takeaway. You don't owe anyone your past, but when you choose to share it, do it on your terms and use it to create safer space for others. All 8 stories share one truth. They didn't chase noise. They chose honesty, even when it carried a cost. Some spoke publicly, others protected their private lives, but each one widened the space for what Hollywood can show and what audiences can understand. Visibility isn't just being seen, it's being seen clearly on your own terms. If this moved you, like the video, comment your country and time, subscribe, and hit the bell.